What's going on, everyone? It's Stevie, and we just got a combat revamp in Roblox Islands. It's really cool. It adds a lot of depth and possibilities for the game, but many of you were confused by this update, and I can't blame you because some of it could be confusing if you didn't know what's up. So in this video, I'm going to explain everything, and then hopefully by the end of the video, you should know everything about the new combat system and how it works. Before I begin, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. So we could break down this combat update into two parts. So one is they redid the bow mechanics. So if you remember, the bows were really bad for a while. Remember the Vamp bow? And it used to be so hard to like shoot arrows with. Well, now it's really easy. It's way easier to shoot arrows. We've been waiting for this for like 2 years. So thanks to the devs for making this much needed change to the game. It is so much easier to shoot stuff, man. I might even make like a little target thing so I can show you how accurate this is. You know, part of this update is the bows. The other part is this whole like new mechanic of strengths and weaknesses and magical type, as well as like different types of damage. All of these have different magic types. So all these magic weapons. In fact, some melee weapons have magical types, but how it works is there are 6 different types of magic. And certain enemies will have resistances to those magic types. For example, if you go over here to the Buffalo Core, you'll see that they have magical resistance to Quake and Inferno. What this means is if you were to use a Quake spell weapon, then it's going to do 20% less damage than normal. So whatever the base damage of that weapon is. Now, if an enemy has a weakness to a particular type of magic, so for example, Storm or Hydro, it's going to do 25% more damage beyond the base damage. So it's basically bonus damage against this guy here if you use Storm or Hydro. Now, a lot of you were asking me, DV, like, what's the best weapon? Based on this, what is the best weapon? Well, after talking to the devs, they are still balancing the weapons. So I can't really tell you a clear answer, because within the next update or two, they're probably going to do everything anyway. In fact, I gave them some feedback because some of the weapons currently aren't so great. For example, the Slime Queen, it says magical Quake, right? It's got the Quake effect. Well, I'm going to show you a spreadsheet I've spent so much time on. This is going to get a little confusing, but all I'm going to show you with the spreadsheet here is you can see the magic type of Quake. Look at all the enemies here. So this is Buffalo Crab, Scorp, all these enemies here. Look at how many enemies resist Quake. It's a really bad magic type currently. The second worst magic type is Inferno. So like I said, there's Quake, Inferno, Storm, Hydro, Ethereal, and Void. So these are easy to figure out. So I'm going to show you all the different weapons by type real quick. So if you go over here to the combat screen and you go to magic, there's only like a handful of magic weapons, thankfully. So it's really easy to figure things out. So you can see Ruby Staff is the only ethereal weapon currently in the game. Ethereal does not have that many resists or weaknesses. So you're pretty safe with the Ruby Staff. You're just going to be doing base damage most of the time. And then over here, the Slime Scepter, like I said, the Quake has a lot of resistances. So you're going to be doing less than the base damage typically. You're going to be doing 20% less damage. So that means, you're probably going to be doing about 32 base damage instead of the 40, which is a big bummer. Now, Static Scepter did get a big buff as part of this combat revamp. In fact, Storm is a really good magical weapon type. This magic type currently does not have that many resists. And you can see here, I'll show you my spreadsheet again. So look at Storm. Look at everything's like weak to Storm. It's insane. Like everything except for Wizard Lizard, except for Infernal Dragon and Wizard Boss are, in fact, Wizard Boss, it resists everything, okay? So this is part of what I was talking with the devs about. And I'll get back to the magic types in a second, as well as all the different like effects. But what I was talking to the devs about is that right here, if you look under magic currently, as far as the bonuses, it's based on a percentage. So you see how it's doing 285% damage for magic damage. This is why melee weapons aren't so good compared to magic. Because if you go back over to any kind of melee weapons, you'll notice it's only plus 17. That is not a percentage scale. So you're getting a flat buff to your weapon. So it's like 0.2 points of damage per level. Whereas magic weapons is a 3% damage increase per level. So that's a ton of damage, okay? So as of this video, I can't really tell you what the best weapon is because it doesn't work correctly yet. There's also some bugs in here. I'm not going to really get into the stats of why and what, but there's currently some bugs that I was talking to the devs about where the weapon damage scale is not correct. So if I use the Spirit Spellbook, this guy, currently it's doing too much damage. So you might be seeing a lot of like changes. Devs already said, yeah, we know. In fact, there's going to be more balanced changes, and that's like we said in our announcement. So they were just telling me, hey, DV, like chill, we're not done yet. And so I got the message loud and clear, devs. It's really difficult for me to tell you like what the best weapon is, but as of this update, my opinion and based on all my tests is the Spirit Spellbook is still the king here. It's still better than even the Queen Scepter. Secondary would probably be the Static Scepter. The Static Scepter, as much as I hate that kind of particular weapon type, you can see that there there were a lot of different weaknesses for the magic type of storm, so I'm going to show you that real quick. Also, because the static scepter got a huge buff. So you can see here, most of these have a weakness to storm. So Bufflecore has a weakness to storm. Scorps have a weakness to storm. Even the magma blob has weakness to it. Magma golem does. The rock mimics do. All of the Scorps do. But look at even slimes have weakness to storm. You can see Baha has a weakness to storm. Fanhorn has a weakness to storm. You can see the pattern here. Core has a weakness to storm. Slime King, Slime Queen, Void Serpent, and then Wizard Boss is just the boss, man. He's cool because he's a wizard. But as far as resistances go, the biggest resistance, like I said, is going to be Quake. So you can see Quake here. Quake. You got Quake, Quake, Quake. It's like the opposite of Storm. Quake is the opposite of Storm. Look at that. All these are having a resistance to Quake. Slime has a resistance to Quake. Baha has a weak resistance. Fanhorn has a resistance to Quake. Core has a resistance to Quake. Slime Queen, Slime King, even Void Serpent. So you can see Quake is probably not the current one to use as of this video. Like I said, remember, they're going to be making changes. So, you know, don't really rely on this video for the best weapon types yet. All right, so that's the magic stuff. Like I said, magic is currently king. If you want to use the best weapon types right now, it's still magic until they nerf it, okay? They did say a nerf is coming for magic. Okay, so let's talk about physical damage and melee, okay? So if we go over here back into this, you're going to notice we have 3 different types now. We have striking, which is typically going to be like hammer stuff. So any of the hammer type weapons are going to be striking, including the shields. So you can see that's a hammer, that's a hammer. Even the fish, Trout's Fury is hammer. This is currently right here, the Infernal Hammer is the current only magical melee weapon, okay? And so this one, you do have to think, you know, keep that into consideration whenever you're trying to calculate damage. Surprisingly, Ruby Sword did not have any magic. I was really surprised by that. I would have expected at least ethereal because the Ruby Staff is ethereal. Same with Rage Blade. I kind of expected a magical effect with Rage Blade, like Infernal for that, because it is a you know, it gets hot. The blade gets hot. So now you'll notice with swords, it is slashing. So interesting thing, again, when I was examining the balance of weaknesses versus strengths, look at striking. Look how many things are weak to striking. A lot of mobs are weak to striking. And a lot of them resist slashing. See, all these are resisting slashing. We're going to get into piercing in a second. But striking, it seems to be the best weapon currently. The slashing seems to be bad. Again, the devs are probably going to balance stuff because they're going to see this. Now, let's get into piercing. So piercing is another weapon type here, and that is simply archery. So all of the archery types, see all these are all piercing based weapons, but you can't look at the bows themselves because the bows won't actually show piercing because it's based on the arrows that you're using. Now they did say more arrows are coming, so you can see that stone long arrow. So your damage for these weapons is also going to be calculated against the bow plus the arrow. So you can see like base damage right here for ancient longbow is 20, and it has to use, because it's a longbow, it needs a large arrow. So you need, basically what it means is long arrow. So you can see like there's arrow types of small, and then there's arrow types of large. It gets very complicated, but not really if you think about it. It's pretty common sense. Short bow is going to need a smaller or shorter arrow. Long bow is going to need a bigger arrow. So it's kind of, this arrow type probably isn't needed, but I'm sure that's just to give them flexibility for the future. But you can see right here, base damage is really low. So my assumption is if you get like a iron long arrow, if they ever add those, they're going to have higher base damage, and maybe they'll have like poison arrows, fire arrows, things like that, which would be pretty cool. You could also see there's opportunity for magic. See how there's a magical thing here? They're clearly going to add magical type arrows, so that gives just a lot of room for growth. The other thing you're going to notice is they did change the Vamp bow to Azarathian longbow, and then they introduced the golden short bow, which is pretty cool. This is a new bow type. Yeah, basically these are the current bows in the game. The best one being the Azarathian. You can see that base damage 26. The downside is these are slower charge rate. Basically means you need to hold down longer. So you can see it's 1 second to hold down, whereas the short bows are faster. They're like half the speed. See, it's 0.6 seconds. So short bows are going to be faster for the draws. Long bows are going to be longer. But what I was also told by Dev is that the long bows can go further, so they have a further range. And I think, I don't know if it's further range. I think it was like maybe the damage fall off is less or something like that. But basically, the longer you shoot, the less damage it does as well. So if you're like really far away from a mob and shooting arrows at them, then you might notice that you're doing less damage. But let me go ahead and show you all these weapons now, and so you can kind of see how they they work. Also, my base it's coming along. My island's coming along. You know, everyone's saying my island was messy, so I started cleaning it up. You can see here, things are looking really good. I also added a glass bridge here. It looks pretty cool. And then I do have, you can see over here, this is kind of a preview of something I'm working on. I'm not really going to show you it too much. It's putting out a ton of crates for me, and it's only one slice of it, to be honest. And it's already doing way more than my original farm, and it's way cheaper. It's so much cheaper than my original farm, so can't wait to show it to you. All right, so we got currently a longbow. Let me go and get a short bow out real quick too. So this is the best short bow you can get, which is the golden one. And you can see right here, you just draw, and you want to go a little bit above. You see how it's like the mouse pointer? You want to go a little bit above it, and there we go. So you can see it did 43 damage. That's a lot. And I just got that guy. It's 53. It's doing a lot of damage with these. So if you have really good archery levels, the damage is pretty decent. So you can see right here under archery, seems to be a 0.5 damage per level instead of 0.2, unlike the melee weapons. So you're definitely getting more of a bonus for piercing or archery. What I like about this is you can kind of shoot from a distance. I also find it really funny. You can see the arrows still in their body. It's so funny. Currently, it's like you can't hear anything. Like if you see how that distance, how I'm hitting it, you can't hear it. But if you get up really close to it, you can hear the ding. So they got to make a couple changes to that. But yeah, this is really, really nice improvement from the original. I remember for a while there, the arrows were just going who knows where. Really liking this whole bow system against bosses. I'm going to show you the longbow on the Slime King. What I really like about this is you don't have to be that close to him. You just have to actually aim properly. That's doing 25. So the fall off damage right here, 25. Now if I get a little closer, you can see 51. Wow, that fall off is huge. 62, 63. So I'm getting closer. 63. So it seems like there's a threshold. 63. Still 63 right here, and I'm not even in his aggro range. Now, obviously, other weapons are going to be faster and cheaper because it's not cheap to make arrows constantly, you know? This is like a resource hog, which is one reason why I never really liked bows, is because it's kind of resource hog. Now, by the way, if you're in third person, if you are facing a certain direction, it's going to shoot wherever you're facing. So if I was like this and I hold down, see how it shot towards wherever I was facing, and it just kind of goes straight. Now, if you go into shift lock mode like this, it will actually use the crosshair. So you can see it's using it. Can't really see that I'm hitting it, but I am. You can look at the progress bar at the top. It feels way more action-oriented now. Look at that. It feels a lot more like Bed Wars. I'm going to show you some weaknesses. So let's go and look at the slime weaknesses. Currently, slime weaknesses are Magical, Inferno, and Storm. So I can either use Inferno or Storm. The two current weapons for these is going to be, Inferno is going to be the Spellbook, just the regular Spellbook. That's Inferno. And then Storm's going to be Static Scepter. So let's go ahead and switch over to Static Scepter, and then I'll show you the Inferno Spellbook as well. So Static did get a big buff. Check this out. It just vaporizes them. It's so much better. You can see it's doing 39 damage per tick right now. Now, granted, it's because my magic is so high, but 39 per tick it's erasing them. It's like a big eraser. Main thing I don't really like about this weapon still is the aim mechanic's kind of a little weird. I mean, even first person's kind of weird. It's pretty good at a range though. Part of it's just lag. So as an alternative to this, we can use the Inferno, the Spellbook, which should do extra damage. 140 damage with that. It's pretty good. 140. Now, the one thing, like I said, if a weakness and strength is not listed, so for example, here on the slime, you don't see anything about void, right? So you don't see a weakness for void. You also don't see a resistance for void. That basically means it's going to do neutral damage to it. So whatever my Spirit Spellbook would do typically it's going to do. So this one's doing 160, 212. So I find this Spirit Spellbook is still the best weapon until you start facing lag. Then it's not so good. I don't really like using casting weapons against the slime because it just takes so long. All right, so I'm going to show you the difference between slashing and striking with these slimes. You can see the slime has a resistance to striking and they have a weakness to slashing. So what that basically means is slime can resist striking really easily, but not slashing as well, okay? Now I wanted to make sure I didn't use a light melee to a heavy melee weapon, because if you go in here, you have to count for your levels. So you can't just go and say, DV, why don't you use a different weapon? Well, because I don't want to use a light melee weapon versus a heavy melee weapon, because my heavy melee is a lower level. So I want to make sure this is an even comparison. So I have a slashing weapon that is a heavy melee, and I also have a striking weapon that has heavy melee. So you can see this one, the hammer does 48 to 72, and this one does 45 to 68. Now this one should do more damage technically, right, than this one, because look at the base damage, 45 to 68, and this one's 48 to 72. Now, if I start off with the striking weapon here, I'm just going to do a couple of hits because we got to show the crit hits too. That's 85, 61 to 85, right? So we're doing 61 and we're doing 85. Now, what's going on here is it's doing 20% less damage because that's a resistance, right? Now, with the Dragon Slayer here, again, this is less base damage than this one. This is going to give me a 25% bonus damage. So let's check this out. 72 to 101. 72 to 101. That's a lot, right? 72 to 101. This one was only 61 to 85. This one's going past 100. Now, I'm going to use these same two weapons, and we're going to find something that has a resistance. All right, so the Void Hound looks like it's the opposite, right? Looks like the Void Hound is the opposite. So we're going to go to the Void real quick, and I'm going to show you that. All right, here's the Void Hound. All right, so we're going to go and start off with the Dragon Slayer this time. So this is 65 to 46. 46 to 65. 46 to 65, okay? Now, remember, this one did not break 100 last time. The striking did not break 100. There he is again. Okay, so we're doing now 76 to 106. 76 to 106. So we're doing way more damage than before. So it just flipped. So that is the difference between strengths and weaknesses. Next up, let's talk about best current weapons for melee as of this video. My choices are going to be the Serpent's Bane. So this is the number one for me. I would use that one. The secondary is going to be the Infernal Hammer. So these are your slashing versus your striking weapons. Okay, these are the only two weapons that I worry about. You can also get a Captain's Rapier. The only reason why I recommend this one is when you're trying to get like extra luck because you're going to get extra tokens and stuff. This is the only weapon currently in the game that gives you that bonus for luck to be able to get extra stuff, okay? Downside is sometimes you won't get loot because you're not doing that much damage. So that's why I like these two. Bows, the Azrathian is going to be a good one. The gold one's going to be good too. I would say just pick your poison if you want the golden short bow. I like the golden only because, I'm going to tell you, only because the arrows are a little cheaper. These are only going to cost you 1 oak wood versus this one is going to cost you 3. It also costs you more stone to make the long arrows. So it's quite the investment to go with the long arrows versus the short arrows. I would say maybe go with short arrows and just stick with the golden short bow. It's not too bad either. It's only 4 rubies. So hopefully this makes things a lot easier for you to understand. If it's still complicated, let me know in the comments below. Ultimately, right now, as of this video, just use magic weapons. Like, don't even bother with like any of these melee weapons unless you're trying to avoid lag. I still find, you know, melee is going to be better for lag avoidance if you're getting like, especially if you're like in a public server with a bunch of other players and you're lagging pretty hard. And then obviously, I love the Spear Spellbook. That has to be my go-to. I don't really even question it. I just go straight to this. You know, it's just the hands down the best weapon now. Ruby Staff still really good. Static Scepter, I hate the aiming mechanic. It's a good weapon, but the aiming really frustrates me. Like, I feel like I'm wasting a lot of time with that weapon. So I like things simple. And so if I were going to go inside of a match, my weapons, here's my current loadout. I'm not even going to bother with the bows still because I've been living fine without them. This is currently my loadout. This is for melee regardless of mob. This is for magic regardless of mob. And this is for luck regardless of mob. I don't really care about the damage. I care about the effects and the ease of things. If I'm trying to get maximum damage, I'm going to also eat Starfruit Cake. Make sure you have a bunch of those handy. That's going to buff your damage anyway. But once they start balancing these things and making magic a little bit more tricky, then I'll probably start becoming a little bit more particular about things. But right now, there's not like, you don't need to have every single weapon, okay? Make things easy. Keep things simple. Anyway, until next week's update, I'm sure we're going to get some more combat changes. So keep an eye out for an updated video for that. Also keep an eye out for my new auto farm design. That is, I'm still testing it. I'm hoping to have that done within the next day or two. So make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you all in the next vid. Peace.